Hey guys, welcome back to another breakdown of Star Trek Discovery Season 3, Episode 11, Su'Kal.
Like always, of course, spoiler warning, if you haven't seen this episode yet, get out of here, go watch it, and then come on back here. So this episode kicks right off where we left off in the last episode at Georgiou's funeral. We see here Adira talking to Stamets, and sure enough, bam, Gray shows up.
So apparently Gray feels stuck while Adira can live their life with no constraints with the Trill symbiont, and Adira promises they'll figure it out. Moments later, Stamets gets an update on the KSF Khi'eth. It seems there's a life sign on the ship, somehow. So Saru knew this all along, but those were not radiation burns on Dr. Issa's head, those were marks of being pregnant. Sure enough, in the very next moment, the Discovery crew heads straight into a nebulous storm. So while the ship is literally falling apart, Saru demands the crew to keep pushing through the storm to find the life sign in the crash.
And this is when Book suggests that they take his ship through the storm with safer results. Saru agrees and lets him go, and Discovery jumps out of the storm.
For Saru, this is extremely impulsive. This is way too impulsive, and I understand that there's a Kelpien involved, but this is a bit much even for Saru.
The cybernetic grave of Jean-Luc Picard is spinning right now if it didn't explode.
Book is able to get the coordinates to the life sign, but he's also getting hit with a heavy amount of radiation.
And with the help of autopilot, Book is just able to make it back to the Disco ship where Culber can help him. And from there, Tilly informs Saru and Burnham that the data from Book's ship reveals that the Kief crashed into a huge dilithium supply. Turns out, it's a planet.
I think we may have just found the source of the burn.
Vance is thrilled to learn of the dilithium planet and asks for a report on the life sign. Saru insists on joining the away team on the mission, leaving his very green number 1, Ensign Tilly, in charge. This is another extremely questionable decision on Saru's part, and of course she's gonna run into some trouble. Of course.
Vance's face says it all. Tilly's one of my favorite characters, and I'm just like, oh, I'm so sorry, Tilly, you had to be put into this circumstance. It's a no-win. She's in her own Kobayashi Maru right now. Vance also informs Saru that the chain are conducting military drills near his home planet, Kaminar, in order to lure the Discovery ship over there.
Tilly thinks they want the spore drive. Vance promises to protect the planet so Disco can continue on their rescue mission.
And after a DNA recombination, Book feels great, and Michael discloses to him that she's going down to the ship and she's not confident in Saru at the moment.
Meanwhile, Culber is going on the away mission too. Stamets is not thrilled, obviously, but Culber feels he must do it. It's his purpose to help Saru and to find the life sign.
Meanwhile, a nervous Tilly talks to Burnham about the mission.
Ensign Tilly, please report to the bridge.
Okay, here we go.
From there, the Discovery jumps back into the nebula using the coordinates Booker gave them. The away team will have badges to check their radiation levels, but will need to return to sickbay in 4 hours. Tilly hopes the disco shields will be repaired in 3 hours so they can jump back and save them.
So the team beams out, and the bridge is now Tilly's.
Black alert.
Inside the ship, Burnham and Culber are transported to an icy forest with new looks. Michael is a Trill, and Culber is a Bajoran.
And Saru is human!
Doug Jones alert!
Yes!
I repeat, Doug Jones alert!
We finally get to see him without prosthetics, this poor actor who's always in prosthetics. That sweet man. We get to talk to him every year at Comic-Con, and he never gets to breathe through his own nose when he's acting. Somehow, they've also lost their radiation supplies and can't contact Discovery. Michael thinks they're in some form of advanced holoprogram.
And Culber believes they'll survive as long as the Disco ship comes back in 3 hours. And after coming across a malfunctioning training program, the team realizes that the radiation has done severe damage to the ship's holoprogram. Yet it's still able to maintain life support.
They need to tread carefully. The holoprogram is unstable, yet seems to be guiding them in a certain path. All of a sudden, the trio is in new clothing again, and are stuck in some kind of MC Escher nightmare. It's an ancient temple that Saru vaguely recognizes.
And this leads the team to an old, yet young in spirit and mind, Kelpien, and this is the Kelpien they've been looking for. They finally tracked him down, and Saru's first contact probably couldn't go any worse. Well, actually, it can. We'll find out later on in the episode. Yes, it very much could. But not only do they scare the Kelpien off, they also wake this monster from a chain door.
Michael believes they're dealing with the mind of a frightened child, since this Kelpien only knows the world from inside the Kief holoprogram. They need to be extremely careful. The trio splits up, and Burnham stays behind to find out what broke out of the chained door.
And back on the Disco ship, Stamets and team are rushing to get the shields up and running again. And at that moment, they receive a strange and concerning message from Burnham, but they can't jump back into the nebula until the shields are fixed.
Meanwhile, long-range sensors pick up a ship approaching their location. Owo believes it's Federation, but Tilly makes the decision to hail them. They don't answer, but they have the correct response codes. The ship is 10 minutes away.
Back with Saru and Culber, they come across a recording from the day the Kaminar joined the Federation. Culber talks to the program, and it asks them are they rescuers that the child has been waiting for. The program has been keeping him alive for 125 years.
And also now we know that Kelpiens age extremely well. This is a 125-year-old child, for goodness sake. So I don't know how old Saru can get, but apparently pretty old and still look pretty good. And the program altered their appearance to be consistent with the program, as they will be the first sentient life the child will come into contact with. The program is pleased they've arrived.
What did we just do?
Meanwhile, Michael is tracking the monster. She comes face to face with it, and for a moment they're curious about one another.
So then the monster and Michael just start chasing each other around this demon souls level that I can't beat, and then they get to a ledge, she falls off and backwards and then just gets sucked up into the sky, which was pretty cool.
Goodbye.
I like that scene a lot.
On the Discovery, the unknown vessel is 2 minutes away. Now, there are no M-class planets within 5 light years. Then Tilly comes to the realization that this is Osyra, the only person who wants the spore drive and dilithium enough to come all the way out there.
Sure enough, the Viridian appears, weapons hot. Tilly calls for red alert and to ready the photon torpedoes. Book says that Osyra likely used a transwarp tunnel on the courier maps, but no one in their right mind would actually use that. Detmer asks if they should jump away, but Tilly said they have to stay nearby to protect the away team. She's clearly overwhelmed and in over her head here.
And poor Tilly, she shouldn't have been put in this position in the first place. This is all Saru's fault.
Yes.
Tilly tells them to cloak the ship, though they won't be able to jump while cloaked. And it seems Tilly is terrified. So when Tilly cloaked the ship, I thought, oh yes, we're going balance of terror. But then that doesn't happen. That never happens here in this episode. I wish it did, but it doesn't. And back with Burnham, she catches her breath and awakens in front of the child. He asks her if she's a program, so on the fly, she quickly pretends to be one. And he's surprised to find something new.
She says she's teaching the dynamics of social interaction. He asks about the human he saw, who was actually Saru, who was unexpected, and says he was from outside. He thinks the outside is dead. She says she can also help him understand what is outside, but he tells her she is obsolete. She threatens to deactivate, but he's curious about a new program and goes along with her lesson.
Meanwhile, Saru and Culber find the child's quarters, and a hollow of a Kelpien elder sits there. Saru then reminisces about the elders telling stories when he was a boy, which is how they preserve their history. But the elder hollow is of an age Saru's elders never survived to, making this the oldest Kelpien he's ever seen.
Culber finds some of the child's art. Saru reads it, and they learn the child's name is Su'Kal, which is also the name of the episode. It roughly translates to beloved gift. The elder says he's there to provide social and emotional support for the child. He reveals Su'Kal's mother created him and all the programs. So it turns out Dr. Issa knew she was gonna die, knew that this child would be alone, and created this entire world to protect her child until someone came to rescue it.
Meanwhile, Michael asks Su'Kal what he knows about families and if he remembers his family. And he starts recalling memories of harvesting and eating together. And then due to the radiation, build up here and the fact that they're going to die, she has to move this along a little quicker. So she starts to ask him pretty much point blank, where are the exits here? How do we get out? And and this freaks out Su'Kal, and he runs off.
Michael finds new radiation burns on her hand and knows they're running out of time. At the same time, Culber is also noticing new radiation burns on his hand. He urges Saru to finish the mission so they can leave. The elder says when Su'Kal is afraid, he goes to his fortress and hides away from all the programs. Culber goes off to try to find Su'Kal while Saru stays back and examines the elder's book. The elder sings a lullaby to Saru, which causes him to think back on his memories of Kaminar.
Here, Saru learns that Su'Kal is protecting himself from the monster from the story. The story teaches children that to be truly free, Kelpiens must face their deepest fear. So as long as Su'Kal will not face the monster, he will remain in this place, as will Saru and the others.
Saru meets up with Culber. Culber tries to send a message to Discovery asking them to hurry back. Culber and Saru walk across moving platforms to get to the fortress. Back on Discovery, Book guesses that if Osyra wanted their spore drive, she's probably been tracking it. She hasn't fired at them because whatever she's got planned, she'll need the ship to be whole in order to make it work. Stamets says they need 30 more minutes before they can jump.
And then they're hailed by Osyra, and she's amused that Saru kept Tilly in charge. Osyra taunts her, and Tilly throws it back in her face.
You are not really Captain material.
So nice try. You don't know anything about me.
Osyraa says she wants Discovery and its spore drive and crew as leverage. Of course, Tilly refuses, stands her ground, and closes the channel.
Not bad for her first go-around, not bad for sitting in the captain's chair and facing off against the actual leader of the Emerald Chain.
Back on the crashed ship, Michael is spying on Su'Kal from afar. While he's building another totem in the fortress, the monster approaches as Saru and Culber find Michael.
Saru recognizes the monster from Su'Kal's story. The monster attacks Su'Kal's totem, and then all of a sudden Su'Kal cries out and then emits a big shockwave that just goes out into space and shakes Discovery. So we kind of know what's going on here.
Now that chain reaction also caused both Discovery and the Viridian to decloak, so Tilly prepares to fire, and she commands Stamets to get into the Spore Cube. And Stamets doesn't want to leave the away team, but Tilly promises to come back for them. And Book volunteers to fetch the away team on his ship. And Adira has an idea to save the away team from dying and asks Reno for her badge.
As the fortress starts to crumble and Su'Kal is panicking, Saru approaches singing the Kelpien lullaby to calm him. Once Su'Kal is calmed down, the disruption from the planet stopped affecting Discovery.
Osyraa hails Discovery again. Disco is stalling for time so Book can get clear.
Osyraa wonders why they haven't jumped away and thinks they're protecting something or someone. And then just as they're about to jump, Osyraa's evil Power Rangers show up, they stop Stamets so they can't jump and go anywhere.
The Viridian releases tentacles that start wrapping around the Discovery, and Osyraa's crew are rounding up the rest of the Disco crew on the ship. Meanwhile, Book is speeding towards the planet and sends a message to the away team that he is in the nebula. And he says whatever happened down there, they can't let it happen again as it nearly caused another burn. And this is when Michael comes to the realization that Su'Kal caused the burn.
Culber comes to the conclusion that Su'Kal's cells adapted to all the subspace radiation in utero. He was only a child when he caused the burn, so something must have happened that triggered him.
Book tells them they need to meet at the rendezvous point as he has to pull them out of there because Osyraa is here. And Saru says if they leave Su'Kal alone, it's only a matter of time until the burn happens again. So Michael says Saru has a connection with him and it has to be him that helps him.
I will not allow my emotions to factor into my decisions.
Saru, you already have.
Culber says he's staying too since he knows what it's like to be all alone in a world that doesn't make sense, calling back to his time in the mycelial network after his death in season 1. Michael says she'll come back for them, but Culber says if more than a day goes by, there's no point. The radiation will kill them.
On Book's ship, the radiation levels are climbing, and to Book's surprise, Adira's on the ship. Adira says they're beaming down. The away team will need medication to survive until Discovery comes back. And Adira transports down to the planet before Book can stop them.
Moments later, Michael transports on board, hurt by the radiation. Back on Discovery, Osyraa's evil Rangers put a mind control device on Stamets and put him in the spore gel controls.
And moments later, Osyraa and her crew beam onto the bridge, threatening the bridge crew and taking their badges. So Osyraa removes Tilly from the captain's chair. She's making jokes about, what do you guys say?
What is it you say when you do your jumpy thing? Huh? Anybody?
And this leaves Book and Michael, and of course everyone left in that crashed Kelpien ship for themselves.
Too late, and now we have a cliffhanger. Now on to things we noticed and Easter eggs.
Michael, Saru, and Culber are beamed into a sophisticated holoprogram designed to protect the lone survivor of the Kief crash. Now, this was first introduced in the Next Generation. During the 2360s and 2370s, holographic environment simulators, aka holodecks, were installed aboard starships, space stations, and institutions for use in training exercises, entertainment, and investigative purposes.
One of the training holos references Hasperat when Burnham and crew approach it. Hasperat was a well-known spicy Bajoran food. On TNG, Ro Laren was a Bajoran who was fond of Hasperat and learned a special recipe for it from her father.
Tilly name-dropped Sigmund Freud when talking to Osyraa about the concept of projection.
A certain 19th century Earth neurologist would say that you've just proven the idea of projection.
This concept was introduced to psychology by Freud, who borrowed the word projection from neurology. Here, projection is defined as the mental process by which people attribute to others what is in their own mind. In TNG, Data began visiting a holographic program of Freud in the holodeck for a psychoanalysis in 2370, after having nightmares in the episode Phantasms.
Who is this?
I am Dr. Sigmund Freud.
Su'Kal is played by actor Bill Irwin. If you watched Legion, you may recognize him as Carrie Loudermilk. He also played Mr. Noodle on Sesame Street for over a decade. That's it for this week, but we'll be off next week for the holidays, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our breakdown of episode 12.
Let us know what you thought of this episode in the comment section down below, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.